Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really pivotal moment, a time when Mexico basically had to redefine itself, and it did it through its buildings. For you, as architecture students, understanding this period is, well, it's absolutely fundamental. It's the foundation for so much of modern practice in Mexico. Okay, so let's just jump right in with the big question. This is what an entire generation of architects was trying to figure out in the early 20th century. And honestly, it's a question that never really goes away, right? How do you build for the future without totally erasing your past? So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the problem they were facing. Then we'll explore two totally different architectural answers to that problem. And finally, we'll see what the lasting impact of this incredible creative period really is. Okay, first things first. To really get why the new architecture was so revolutionary, you have to understand what it was pushing back against. What was the crisis? So, before the revolution, you had the Porfiriato era, and the architecture from that time, it got a really bad rap. People saw it as totally elitist. It was basically a copy-paste of European styles, which felt completely out of touch with the reality for most Mexicans. These huge, grand buildings felt more like symbols of a repressive government than anything that actually represented the people. Right. So the main takeaway here is that this wasn't just about making buildings look different. It was a deeply political and social mission. The new government needed a clean break from the past. They needed buildings for the people, an architecture that could physically represent the hopes and ideals of this new nation. All right, so let's look at the first real swing at solving this problem, the Neocolonial style. And their big idea was to turn inward, to look back into Mexico's own history to find the answers. As you'll dig into in your classes, this was, at its heart, a nationalist movement. The key word here is reinterpreting. They weren't just trying to make carbon copies of old colonial buildings. No, the idea was to take that rich heritage and reinvent it for a new, modern, post-revolutionary age. And this is how they did it. You can see these key elements coming together. You've got the drama and flair of the Baroque, that sense of order from symmetrical design, and, this is huge, a deep connection to the land through local materials. And of course, the internal courtyard, which is such a core part of Mexican design, was right at the center of it all. And this is where it gets really cool. Neocolonialism wasn't some cookie-cutter style. It was super adaptive. I mean, look at this. From the iconic azulejo tiles in Puebla to that gorgeous pink cantera stone in San Luis Potosí, the style absorbed the unique character of each region. It was a celebration of local craft and materials. And you've got to remember, this wasn't just happening on job sites. It was a full-blown intellectual movement. Thinkers like Macedonia Arbe and Federico Mariscal, names you'll definitely come across, were laying down the theoretical groundwork. They argued like crazy that this had to be a creative reinterpretation, a deep dive into the past to make something new, not just a shallow copy. But you know how it goes in architecture. No single idea stays on top forever. The neocolonial style started facing its own pushback, and new tensions started to bubble up. This timeline really shows you how fast things were moving. For about a decade, neocolonialism was the answer. But by the end of the 20s, people started to worry. Was it becoming a cliché, a pastiche? And right at that moment, this huge new movement from Europe, modernism, starts to arrive in Mexico, and it offers a totally different way of seeing the future. And this became the heart of the debate, a real battle of ideas that you'll see pop up again and again throughout the 20th century. Could a style that was so rooted in history really meet the needs of a country that was trying to modernize so quickly? So, let's see how that debate really opened the door for the next big thing in Mexican architecture. For a new generation, the answer wasn't to look back anymore. It was to look forward and fully embrace the ideas of rationalism. Now, this wasn't just copying European modernism. Of course, the influence of giants like Le Corbusier and the Bauhaus was massive. But what's so brilliant is how pioneers like Mario Pani and Louis Barragan took those international ideas and masterfully adapted them to the unique context of Mexico, thinking about the climate, the culture, and the huge social needs of the time. I mean, look at this comparison. It's a total 180, where neocolonial was decorative and historic, rationalism was simple and all about function, it swapped traditional stone and wood for modern materials like concrete and steel, and it replaced those ornate facades with clean lines and big, open, light-filled spaces. It was a complete pivot from looking at the past to building for the future. And here's the most crucial point. With rationalism, architecture really became a tool for social progress. The main goal wasn't just about creating a symbolic identity anymore. It was about actually solving the real-world problems of a country that was industrializing like crazy. It was about building schools, hospitals, and huge public housing projects to make life better for everyone. So, what does it all mean? What's the lasting impact of this incredible journey, from neocolonialism all the way to rationalism? And what does this whole quest for a modern Mexican architecture mean for us right now? This whole period left a huge permanent mark. It basically set up this ongoing conversation between tradition and modernity that is still happening today in Mexican architecture. It cemented the idea that buildings can be powerful statements about who we are as a nation, and as you go out and do your own work, you're going to see the legacy of this debate everywhere. Ultimately, this history isn't just something to memorize for a test. It's a foundation, but it's also a challenge. Those architects answered the critical question of their time. The next question, well, that belongs to you. You're the next generation that's going to keep shaping Mexico's identity in stone and steel and glass.